They say they're snooping to protect us. But as the lawsuits pile up, will this NSA mess end up hurting one of the strongest parts of our struggling economy? Hi, everyone. I'm Brenda Butner. This is Bulls and Bears. Here they are, the Bulls and Bears this week. Gary B. Smith, Tobin Smith, Jonas Max Ferris, John Layfield, along with Susan Ox. Welcome to everybody. Okay, Gary B., you say all this snooping could shock the one part of the economy that's actually growing. How so?
Absolutely, Brenda. Look, I'm going to call this the NSA tax, if you will. You know, we have the e-commerce segment of our GDP is about $269 billion. It's growing the fastest of any retail segment that we have out there. In fact, it's probably, if you look back over the last few years, really supplied the bulk of the jobs and growth and innovation in the retail sector. If people now are afraid to go online, and they are, I mean, they've been afraid in the past, you know, credit card stealing and stuff like that. This is only going to exacerbate it. If that industry starts to shrink, oh boy, the economy is really going to suffer.
Well, Jonas, you say, consumers are going to get used to it after a little while.
Yeah, especially, look, I don't think it's going to change shopping behavior. Like, at the end of the day, if you can save 3% on something and go through an unsecure internet connection versus getting off your butt and going to a store, you're going to take that deal. That said, there are other parts of the internet which could be burdened by overreach of the government looking out for our security. You know, the whole email, like, if you stop sending emails or do less because you think they're being watched and you start making phone calls or, you know, using faxes. A lot of companies, I have to unfortunately do faxes in many cases because of security issues with email and sending applications. It slows down productivity. There's errors on it. It's blurry. Someone has to call me. It creates needless use of labor. So you can slow down the efficiency that we get from the internet by leading to a state of paranoia where you think everything is insecure because some NSA agent is redirecting traffic into their supercomputer site somewhere.
Well, Toby, it's not really American consumers you're worried about. You think that it may be globally there's going to be this paranoia.
Well, as Gary says, absolutely, Brenda. I mean, the big issue here is that 90% of all the clients, all the customers of Facebook or AOL or any of these Google are outside the United States. And, you know, particularly in Europe, they have a whole different idea about what personal privacy is, and their idea is a lot more privacy than our United States. I mean, if you look at the business growth of those companies, and remember, every dollar that they create over in, you know, let's say Germany, creates $2 or $3 of income over here because of management, because of data centers, et cetera. So I think the biggest issue here is that we've totally disregarded the fact that the internet businesses, which to Gary's point are one of the fastest growing and high paying jobs in the country, are really a threat outside the United States, much more than inside the United States.
Well, Susan, you actually think this could be a benefit to the economy.
I do. You know, I think we have lost a lot of the privacy around purchasing data already, and people are comfortable with that. You know, you buy something on the internet, you know, Jonas buys a dog toy on the internet, and then all of a sudden he's seeing ads for kibble pop up. And that's because they're combing through your purchasing data and they're suggesting ads to you. So we've already kind of gotten comfortable with some level of losing that privacy there. But when you think about encryption, I think that there could be a really good, strong boom in the encryption services on email, on web searches. There are a lot of companies out there already who are starting to do this. And, you know, this is what American ingenuity looks like. We see a problem, we find ways to fix it.
Okay, John, you think this is going to impact the economy and for the good or bad?
I don't think it's going to be negligible either way. Look, Facebook had a lot of problems in 2007 with Beacon. That was sharing users' data with advertisers so they could better target certain users. That really hurt them for a time being. They got over that. Look, cloud-based computing in the United States, you're going to have a fallback. You're already having some of that from corporations overseas and governments overseas. But Facebook wasn't going to get into China anyway. And the consumer here, look, this is like saying the phone companies are going to die because there was wiretapping in Watergate. It didn't happen then. And people now realize, look, our government's been snooping since they first had horses and a tin with a string tied between it. This is nothing new that our government is snooping on people. I think people realize that.
Okay,
John, we're
Gary
not talking
B.
about your college education, John. Come on.
Gary B., take him
leave
on.
Evelyn Christian out of this.
Well, I want to know how they did that snooping when there was two cans on either end. Was there a third can we didn't see in the middle of that line? But in any event, you know, Jonas made a good point about the productivity, but you know what he didn't mention is that shopping over the internet, I want to come back to this e-commerce point, is a way of improving our productivity. If, even 10% of the people out there said, you know what, I'm sick of this whole, the spying stuff. I don't trust the internet any longer. I'm not going to buy something on eBay or on Amazon. I'm going to have to get in my car and drive to the mall. Oh my gosh, how many people are avoiding that, avoiding the hours you spend doing that, avoiding spending the gasoline? I think this could have a significant impact.
But Gary, what is somebody doing online when they're buying something that has anything to do with spying or anything to do with terrorism? If you're afraid of that, I'd be much more afraid of going to a restaurant with my credit card and having the waiter or waitress swipe my credit card. It's only happened about 10 times.
I think you're mixing.
I agree. I agree with you, Toby. But do you think the common man out there or woman is able to make that distinction? Oh,
yes,
this is what the NSA is looking at.
Oh, come on. Americans are smarter than that.
I'll be honest with you. I don't. I think that they're looking at all the data, all the transactions out there.
Okay, Jonas.
I think you're confusing the other risk of credit card security when you're shopping with wholesale storage of our data by the government. Now, for example, right now, another thing going on is this cloud computing, which means you're trying to put all these documents and files and transactions that are on local servers onto the internet. That's a huge wave going on in business, and it could get slowed down. If you think, well, if I put everybody's files online and then the government just has access to it whenever they want, they really can't do that on your own hard drive without warrants as easily. So whether that's true or not, it could lead to that kind of behavior where you slow down the movement of paperwork. You're talking about the healthcare industry, moving documents online, getting health records online out of paper files. You could get in the way that where consumers wouldn't want that necessarily because they perceive that the government is creating a honeypot of data that is open to hackers or wherever by taking it all, essentially.
Okay.
The horse has left the barn there. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, exactly. Corporations already have the honeypot of data. They're already collecting all of this information on us anyway, so I don't think consumers are going to really see an impact.
But Susan, to your point, that's like saying if cops stopped doing local police work, then it's going to be a boom in burglar detector business. That's good for the economy. That's probably not a good way to run the country either.
Hey, I'm trying to make lemonade out of lemons here.
Right, but remember that also they're getting the data right out of the pipes. They're not going. It doesn't matter whether you store it on your hard drive or anybody else's hard drive. They're getting it right out of the internet. So, Jonas, I'm sorry. I mean, it's been happening. Internet has not slowed down here. Over Europe,
yeah, but Toby, wait. Let's just be clear. If I store files on my hard drive on a computer in my office, for example, that's different than on the cloud because now you're talking about sending it somewhere where it can be interjected by the computer's Prism, whatever, the NSA's Prism.
I understand,
it's a little
but your
different.
phone call and your email is the only thing the government cares about. They don't care about that weird stuff you have in your hard drive.
Okay.
We'll see where this goes.
All right, John.
Look, there's a reason that Toby loses his credit card in restaurants. He drinks a lot of wine, and he flat just leaves them on the table. So I feel with Toby. Look, we spy on China. China spies on us. No,
How
he always
does
gets
that
it back.
build on your point, Layfield? How does that build on your point?
All right, we don't have to get personal here. Okay.
Look, China spies on us. We spy on them. They spy on their people. Apparently, we spy on ours, too. That's not going to affect whether we buy e-books or not in my opinion.
Okay, that's got to be the last word. Thanks, guys.